Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we just had one of my very favorite moments happen, which will happen a lot when we're doing, a morning scoop or a Buckeye Weekly. And one of those shows I'm hosting, one of those shows you're hosting. And every once in a while, we'll be sitting there at the start of the show and it's like, oh, right, I have to talk first. We just had one of those moments. The last time we did a Buckeye Weekly, we're like wrapping up or a morning scoop. We're talking and it was like, oh, yeah, this is my show. I need to talk now and actually wrap the show up. Oh, okay. Okay, good. So, yes, I think my takeaway is we do too many podcasts.
Or, Tom, do we not do enough so that we are just always locked in? Like, you just like, we're like subways, just boom, 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 boom. Subways are never like, boy, I sure am tired. I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost. No, subways know where they're going. Maybe we just need to do more.
Yeah, if we were on camera anymore during the given week, this would basically be the Truman Show. So I'm not sure I'm willing to do that, but we'll see.
We'll see. And I would like to welcome everybody to our mid-season defensive award show. I'm listening for the band in the background, but there is no. Please let me finish, Tom. So you guys caught the offensive show a couple days ago, and hopefully you liked it. Now this is the defensive version, which, as it turns out, I think is a little bit more difficult to come up with some of these answers. The offensive show, a lot of it just fit right in. Defensive show, a little bit more difficult, as I'm sitting here furiously like, hey, what about this? No, I'll just go ahead and I'll put two guys here. I'll choose one. I'll do it live, figure it out at the time, and we'll go from there. Probably like one award here that is very obvious, but we'll eventually get through all of it. We will start, as we did with the previous show, with the MVP. The MVP of the defense, Tom, I will give you, I'll let you go first, and because we might have the same guy here.
I don't know who else you would have. I think Ronnie Hickman has to be the answer. Good, you're nodding. Okay, good. I picked the right answer. Well, no, does that mean I picked the wrong answer? I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, here's the tackle list. Ronnie Hickman, 50. Second place guy, 33. Third place guy, 29. Like, it's just like you take the third place guy and the fourth place guy, you add them together, and they don't have as many tackles as Ronnie Hickman. Like, yep, there's the answer. And he's come from, he was someone who was, I think, a little bit of a forgotten man before the start of the season, where, we knew he was in the mix at Bullitt, but we were sort of assuming, that's going to be a Craig Young thing. And then sometimes Ronnie Hickman's going to be doing some stuff too. He can't, he missed his true freshman year because of a knee injury. And, last year was kind of a lost year for a lot of people. So you just sort of forgot about him in some ways. And it was like, you knew he was good, and you knew the Ohio State's coaching staff was really in on him when he was first coming in, but it just like you hadn't seen anything for a couple of years through really no fault of his own. And he has just emerged and been a fantastic piece for them in a spot where they really needed someone. That's a spot where that was one of the big question marks coming into the year. And like, he's answered it, not with a period, but with an exclamation point.
Yeah. And Tom, just please promise me the next time we talk to Taraji Mitchell, you will refer to him as, hey, second guy. Or when we talk to Cody Simon, if you would refer to him as, hey, third guy, just make me that promise. The other thing that Ronnie Hickman has done is this defense changed, and he is now playing as much safety as anything. And so it's a lot to ask. Hey, we need you. Yes, we know you're a safety. We're going to need you to play some linebacker. That's what the Bullet does. You've got to be up there. And then you do that for a while with the single high safety defense that they've got. And then, now it's like, hey, we need you to be able to handle being a safety as well, being a boundary safety for us. And he's like, you know what? Hey, I don't care. I'm Rocket Hickman. That stuff doesn't bother me. Like, you cannot phase a Rocket. And, so I think he is the MVP. Will he stay the MVP? I don't know. And really, he is the most obvious answer at this point. Will somebody else step up? I think that would be great for the Buckeye defense if they did. But what he has been able to do, and I don't know if that's because, I don't think it's because of the low expectations or the I don't want to say low expectations. We didn't know to expect this kind of season for him. So I don't know that has necessarily played into it, because he is on pace for the first 100-yard tackle season at Ohio State since Raekwon McMillan had like 106 in 2016. So he's doing something that doesn't normally get done around here of late. And so You got to credit him for that, especially with some up and down defensive line injuries. And like nobody's really taking over and presented themselves as an option. So I agree with you on that one. Ronnie Hickman, that is also who I had. I'm sure we're going to be wildly different on this one as well. The rookie of the year on the Ohio State defense, and this could be a true freshman, this could be a redshirt freshman. For me, that is Denzel Burke.
Oh, wow. I went with Bob Hamlin from the Kansas City Royals. Was that not the right? Yeah, no. Yeah. Okay. Well, if we have to pick from Ohio State, then I guess Denzel Burke. I mean, he's been like, maybe the best true freshman corner I've ever seen at Ohio State. And maybe I'm struggling to think of other true freshman corners who were as immediately impactful. I mean, Charles Woodson made some pretty big plays as true freshman, but like, okay, if you're in the Charles Woodson discussion, like, that's probably a pretty good sign for how how the first year of your career is going. He was someone who, you go back to our spring shows, we did the who's going to be the next true freshman to lose his black stripe, and he was my pick. And at the time, I remember catching a lot of grief for that. And it was like, well, how could you pick him when you could pick Troy Van Henderson? Or it was like, no, this guy's, you kept hearing all spring, like, this guy is amazing. And then, but we didn't really get to see it much. He didn't make a ton of huge plays in the spring game or anything like that. And then all fall camp, he kept hearing like, this guy's like, he's still in the mix to be a contributor. And then all of a sudden, we're at Minnesota. And then all of a sudden he's starting. And it's like, what the heck is happening? You don't start a true freshman at corner. And then he's just been good. Like, he hasn't been perfect. Kerry Combs talked about the fact that he made a pretty significant mistake during the Maryland game. But, to be pretty good at this time of year, go back to all the other Ohio State true freshman corners that have played. It's like Jeff Okudah started the Cotton Bowl only because Denzel Ward opted out. And he was okay. That was Jeff Okudah. And that was the last game of the season. Like, Denzel Ward is just like, first game of the season, like, oh no, I'll be good. I'm just going to play. Like, we were talking before the show. It's like, you could really pretty much put Denzel Ward down for almost any of these answers. And he'd be like, yeah, I can see that. And
I would just point out, you called him Denzel Ward as further indication.
Well, I mean, he was pretty good too.
But
Tony, do you have barbecue back there?
No, I do not. Yeah, he has been as outstanding as promised. Like, and not in terms of he wasn't promised, but like everything you've heard has lived up to what he has done this far. And that is why the next award, biggest surprise time, I'm interested to see what you have. I will let you go first on this one because we can discuss it, but who do you have as your biggest surprise for the Buckeye defense this year?
I tried not to pick Denzel Burke for everything because, I mean, let's just preface this with, I am absolutely floored at everything Denzel Burke is doing, and I cannot believe it. And it is one of the biggest shocks I have seen covering this team or watching this team over the last quarter century. So with the idea that this will be a real boring show if we just pick Denzel Burke for everything, I'm going with Steel Chambers. Did you pick Steel Chambers?
Well, here's the thing.
You don't care if it's a boring show because you don't care about the listeners. That's fine.
No. Well, that's a different show. Denzel Burke being a biggest surprise, I guess it doesn't qualify because we were told, hey, like every step of the way, this guy is really good. So I would disqualify from that because, yes, to say here now, like if we had not heard anything about him, like, yes, he is very surprising. But if he just does what people told us he was going to do, is that on us for being surprised? Like,
well, but I mean, you heard he was good. You didn't hear this guy's going to start from day one and be an immediate impact player and just immediately be great. Like, I mean, we went into the season thinking quarterback was one of the big question marks on this team. And, if you had gone into the season and said, how are you feeling about the quarterbacks? And let me just preface this with Sevyn Banks is going to miss multiple games and Cam Brown's going to miss multiple games. And Legend Cavazos isn't going to be doing much. And Ryan Watts might get his position shifted. Like, okay, now how are you feeling about the cornerbacks? Like you would have thought, you'd have been the "this is fine" dog with all the fire around him. Like this is like that would have been like, oh my gosh, they're gonna give up more points than the worst possible, the worst of the Rutgers defenses of recent years. And it's like, oh no. It turns out everything really is okay. So it's the dog was right. This is fine.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see him start the season opener. I think his consistency, there's an argument to be made that he is also the defensive MVP because while Sevyn Banks and Cam Brown have alternated who plays each week, basically, Denzel Burke has been there the entire time. And early in the season, when it was Ryan Watts and Legend Cavazos on the other side, switching back and forth, it was Denzel Burke. So like he has been the consistent guy. And so, but again, we don't want to just, this isn't the Denzel Burke show. No, all due respect. I also went with Steel Chambers here because he is playing the same position as Taraji Mitchell, and he is taking snaps from Taraji Mitchell. So, and yes, no, Taraji Mitchell didn't start until this year, but he's a senior. He's a captain. He is expected to be a leader, one of the leaders of this defense, and he is. And yet Steel Chambers, a running back in the spring, is playing as well as any linebacker, arguably better than any linebacker on the roster right now, making plays, perhaps the surest tackler that the Buckeyes have on a team. And, they're both equally surprising, but, for a quarterback to play well isn't a surprise, I guess. And for a running back to come in and be your best linebacker is. So, yeah, I think we can go ahead and not even sheepishly, but just give this to Steel Chambers as the biggest surprise, knowing that what Denzel Burke is doing is hasn't been done at Ohio State in 40 years, just in terms of a freshman starting. So I'll give him credit there, but I will go with you with Steel Chambers on that one.
Yeah, he is someone who earlier in the week we talked to Kerry Combs and he was asked, so if this is how good Steel Chambers is after being a linebacker for like 2 months, like what could he have looked like had he been a linebacker from day one at Ohio State? I mean, it's really intriguing because it's just, and Combs talked about the fact that it's his natural instincts. It's, it's like see and go with him. Like he said, sometimes guys don't see it and sometimes guys will see it, but not really believe it. And they don't go immediately. With Steel Chambers, it's just so instinctive, just see, go. Like he's just a natural linebacker. And that's something that, if you can keep that, and then, he said, sometimes he doesn't see the right thing. He sees something that he thinks he sees and it's not actually what he sees, but that's something that's just going to come with reps, with time at that position. So he's someone who he has been a very pleasant surprise already for the Buckeyes. He's already got 19 tackles. Like he has one fewer tackle than Bryson Shaw, Tommy Eichenberg. I mean, he is what, 6th on the team in tackles, and he's only been playing linebacker for like 6 weeks and was not getting regular snaps for the first couple of those. I mean, that's insane. And so, yeah, he I think is a good choice there. And yes, again, we will preface this with, yes, you could pick Denzel Burke for all of these.
And there are times Steel Chambers just shows up out of nowhere, kind of like Ryan Shazier used to, which is, I know, is a lofty name to throw out there. Unsung Hero, Tom. I will go first here. I went with, and this is a tough one because it's hard to be unsung when Ohio State gets so much attention. And I think Steel Chambers is getting a lot of attention now. So I'm going to go with Cody Simon as the starting middle linebacker now. Has been hurt and gotten healthier and healthier, still has a banged up shoulder, but has solidified the linebacker unit and gives Tommy Eichenberg a chance to watch more and learn that way. And now they're both playing at middle linebacker and they're sharing the reps. And I think he's just provided some calm, and the linebackers are better than they've been all season long. I think they're all falling into place, and the defense is as well. And I think Cody Simon being in there, not getting much attention, because it's, if you're not missing tackles and you're not standing out in that way, like, gosh dang, Cody Simon, and defense is playing pretty well, then I've got him here. Who do you have?
Yeah, Cody Simon's a good pick. I actually went with Cam Martinez, who is maybe even a little more unsung than Cody Simon is. And, he may be a little bit less of a hero and a little bit more unsung. So we're kind of striking a little bit of a balance there. But Cody Simon's a great pick. Cam Martinez is someone who, as they have had to reshuffle the back end of that defense after the Josh Proctor injury, the cover safety spot, it was like, well, what if Lathan Ransom has to move to the deep safety spot? Well, who's going to play the cover safety spot? And the answer has turned out to kind of be a mixture of Marcus Williamson and Cam Martinez. But, again, talking to Kerry Combs earlier in the week, Kerry Combs talked about the fact that, like, Cam Martinez has been so good in man coverage that there are situations where Cam Martinez is like clearly their best option for that cover safety spot. If you have a couple different guys, like, you don't have to have the one guy who can do it all. If you have a couple different guys, you can't exclusively have them do that, because then it's like other coaching staffs will pick up on the fact that, hey, if Cam Martinez is on the field, he's in man coverage. Like that'll be something people pick up on pretty quickly. But if you have certain skills that you can be like the best guy on the team doing this one thing, like that's a really useful piece. And he's a lot to me like Ronnie Hickman, where he's someone who came in and that first year, like he was just like learning to play defense because he was a high school quarterback up in Muskegon, Michigan. He was not, he was a little like Denzel Burke, where he was a high school offensive player. And now he's moving to the defensive backfield because that's where they thought his skill sets might translate best at the college level. But he had that first year where he had to learn. And, as we're having these conversations about corners and safeties during the preseason, like as we were going through the defensive backfield, he was the guy who I would occasionally forget because you're going through the guys who you saw playing last year. And it was just like, you didn't really see Cam Martinez play last year. And now he's turned into a pretty significant piece. He's not an every game starter. He's not a 60 snaps a game guy every week, but he's someone who I think he fits the unsung hero because he's probably not the first person that would spring to your mind when you were thinking of unsung hero, but he has fit a very specific role for them that they really needed to have filled.
Yeah. And I had him on my list as well for the way he stepped in and allowed players to move. And you can even, we'll see, maybe Marcus Williamson is in that list for the second half of the season because they can do some different things and use them different ways. So yeah, I would agree with that one. Now we go to the player who deserves more snaps. Tom, I defer to you on this one.
Yeah, this was the one that I probably sat looking at the longest. Like they've shuffled so many guys in and out that it's like you could put in a lot of guys. You could put a lot of names in there. And, there's an argument to have Tyreek Smith in there. Like Tyreek Smith, he hasn't gotten a lot of snaps. That's been injury, not performance. But, I ended up with Tyreek Williams. And Tyreek Williams is just someone who he is getting more snaps, but you're seeing the production from him that you don't see from anywhere else. He is leading the team in sacks. A true freshman nose tackle is leading the team in sacks right now with 4. And yes, 3 of them came against Akron, but he's leading the team in sacks with 4. That to me is pretty remarkable. And, that makes him someone I would like to see more of. And, he is, as a nose tackle, you are not going to be the guy who's playing 60, 70 snaps a game. That's just, they will always rotate those big guys in and out to keep them fresh. But, whenever Tyreek Williams is on the field, it feels like he's making plays. Even if he's not getting sacks, he's getting in the quarterback's face. He's getting his hand up in the passing lanes. I would like to see more of him.
Well, I think I've even seen him at 3-tech at times, which gives you an idea of what he can do in the athleticism. And so that is also who I had. And you could look at a number of guys and yes, Steel Chambers deserves more, but you're taking them from Taraji Mitchell, and Tyreek Williams deserves more, but you're taking them from 3 other seniors. And so, but what he has done in his limited number of snaps, you'd like to see more. I think that was the easiest answer. I don't know who else really would be a significant argument there. So yes, we both go Tyreek Williams there. I feel like this next one, we might also be in concert with. It's the most important coaching decision on the defensive side of the ball this year. Tom, I'm going to go with the
is it a decision about coaching?
Yes, it's the Kerry Combs situation, taking the play calling away, giving it to Matt Barnes, all of that, the reduction in the 1 high and just the entire defensive change is the most important coaching decision on defense because it was a collective decision in terms of that one decision changes a lot, but also I guess they're also separate because you can't just change Matt Barnes, give Matt Barnes the play calling and say, now run the single high. Like, well, we've had issues with that and you've seen that. And I can't really call plays that, are going to fail like that. It's not doing me any good. So I think, I don't know if you can just single out one in there because I think they're all intertwined and also as important. So the most important coaching decision on defense for me, I have the demotion of Kerry Combs, but understanding that encompasses everything else that has gone on to fix the defense.
Right. And to me, that and the offensive line shift during fall camp are 2 of the most encouraging signs for Ryan Day's future as Ohio State's coach, because those are major changes that there are a lot of programs that would not have made those changes. They totally overhauled the defense in the middle of the season, and you're not going to just like, and now we're a 3-3-5 team. Like, you're not going to make that kind of a change in the middle of the season. that was about as radical a change as you were going to make, where you're changing your play caller, you're shifting personnel around, you're, adapting to the loss of Josh Proctor. There was a lot of stuff going on there. And they did it, and they changed their scheme, and they did a lot of the stuff that Ross Fulton had been yelling about them for, to do for weeks and weeks at that point. And they did it in the middle of the season. And you had a rocky week against Tulsa as they were, you were sort of in the middle of changing gears on the bike. And it was like that moment where the gears are kind of grinding a little bit, but then it kicked into gear, and then it's been pretty good since then. That's a change. And the offensive line change during fall camp. Those are two things that are like, Ryan Day is not afraid of making big changes, and both of them have worked out so far. This is not like panicking and making a stupid change. These are two changes that have been, there has been a thought behind it. There has been, but he's had the courage to do it, and they've both worked out. So yeah, that to me, by far the most important coaching decision on the defensive staff.
All right, let's go to the next one. The most improved player on defense. Tom, you go.
Well, Ronnie Hickman went from guy who I wasn't necessarily thinking was going to start to team MVP. So I think Ronnie Hickman is probably a pretty good pick there. But you could name several different players that we've talked about already on this show for this spot.
I am going with a guy, Steele Chambers, who was not a good linebacker in the spring. In fact, he was not a linebacker in the spring. So I guess what is more like the improvement? It's exponential at this point. Like it went from nothing to very much. And so I think that is nobody has improved more than Steele Chambers, but I also agree with the Ronnie Hickman thing. I think part of the reason why the defense is playing better is because guys are, there's more than one guy to choose from here. So that is my pick, Steele Chambers. And I don't know that you can argue that, Tom.
No, I think, any of the guys who we've talked about on the show, really, to this point, you could throw in there. I think Tyleik Williams has become a pretty big improvement. Denzel Burke has had a pretty significant improvement. Steele Chambers has had, you could pick any number of guys. This defense has gotten substantially better, and it's because a bunch of the individual pieces of the defense are also getting a little bit better. So that's a good sign for them. And, another good sign is the next one is most improved unit, and there are a couple choices here too. And I went linebackers there because the linebackers the first couple of weeks just looked like a complete tire fire. But you could pick safeties, you could pick cornerbacks, and I would go, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But linebackers to me, you've had a couple of guys transfer out, and, really, that was two guys who I think we throughout the summer were expecting were going to be contributors, at least significant rotational players there. Dallas Gant, Kayvon Pope, both gone, just a couple of weeks into the season. And, there were some growing pains there for Tommy Eichenberg, for, Steele Chambers coming from, going 0 to 60, Cody Simon overcoming some injuries, Paulie Teote overcoming some injuries. And it's not the deepest unit on the team by any means, but they have come a long way. The first couple of weeks of the season, it was like a fire drill at linebacker. And now it's like, now the linebackers look like, oh, this is pretty good at Ohio State. This is not the most remarkable Ohio State linebacker play you've ever seen, but it's gone from like total disaster to like, yeah, it's not bad. That's a pretty significant improvement in the span of a month and a half.
Yeah, it is. And it was, I believe Ryan Day called him a clown show. Is that correct, Tom?
That doesn't sound like something Ryan Day would say.
No, I was thinking, is it safety? Because you have seen Cam Martinez and Ronnie Hickman and Marcus Williamson stepping up and Lathan Ransom and all while Josh Proctor goes down. But there's no longer a concern about the linebackers. And to think that over the course of 6 games, you would go from this is not good to this is fine with the linebackers. I think that says a lot to me. That is I think I have them as my most improved unit as well, just because they're no longer the concern that they once were. Guys, I think Ryan Day even said this, guys know their roles now. They know what to expect. They play them well, and they know what each week is going to have for them, basically, and they know how to prepare as well. So, yeah, I like the linebackers there. They're no longer – I don't know if everybody else shares the same feeling with me, but I'm sure there are still people out there who are concerned. I think they're doing just fine right now. And we'll see how they go as the season goes on. But for me, yes, I agree. Most improved unit. Tom, this was a submitted one that we ended with the offense. The best interviewee on the defensive side of the ball. And there have been 2 interviews for me this year that on defense that just stood out. And the first one was before the season, Teron Vincent, just the happiest guy you'd ever want to talk to. You leave feeling good about the day after talking to him. The second one was Denzel Burke. And I think after that one, I said, you got to go watch this. Like, just the confidence. And this was maybe after week 2 or something like that. Just the confidence and the matter of factness that he spoke with. It was not a freshman speaking. It was a professional in whatever industry. It's just somebody who has been doing this for a long time. He hasn't been doing this, nothing. He's seen everything already. He hasn't. This is a guy who has been a corner for, at that point, 2 or 3 games, and then like 5, 6, 8 games in high school. And he was the most not cocky, not arrogant, just do. Like, it just, everything is in a line for him. And it was just, it was different for a freshman. It was different than a lot of the cornerback interviews. Like, one of my favorite interviewees ever has been Bradley Roby. He reminds me of him, and just how confident and just matter of fact, just like, this is what I'm going to do. This is why I do it. This is what's going to happen. And it's like he just sees his path the entire way. So I enjoy talking to him. He's not necessarily like a funny guy, and that he can be, but it's just, it's different when talking to him. And that struck me. So I don't know who is the best. Usually it's defensive lineman, as we said on the last show with the defense. But the guys who stuck with me the most this year have been Denzel Burke and Teron Vincent. So I will give this one to Denzel Burke again.
Yeah, Denzel Burke was on my list. I had a couple people listed, and Teron Vincent's a good one. Haskell Garrett on the right day can be a good interview. Zach Harrison has had some moments of pretty good candor this year that have been pretty good. I mean, the actual answer here is Kerry Combs. I don't know if we're cheating by if we're cheating by picking a coach there. That's the actual answer.
Yes,
but any of the guys that I listed there, those guys are all like really good interviews. Zach Harrison, I remember, had one where he was talking. People were asking him about, like, so what, how have you changed so much? You're so much more outspoken. You're so much, you're not so withdrawn. He's like, oh, I've always been like this. I just wasn't like this around you guys. Like, I was always like this within the team. It's just now I'm doing it around you guys too. And it's like, okay, I see.
Steel Chambers is also good. Getting to talk to him a little bit. So that will do it. Tom, anything else before we go?
No, just looking forward to having a week off from having to cover college football. And that means we get to watch college football. I can't wait. Like, a nice full day of college football on Saturday. That's my very favorite kind of college football. Saturday is the day that's full of college football. And
it's not even the best week of the year. And it's not a great week, but I'm home, so it's good enough. And it's always these weeks where stuff happens that you didn't expect because, Tom, you didn't expect them. So that will do it for this show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, you can find us at BuckeyeScoop.com. If you'd like to become a member, we welcome you. If you are a member, we thank you. And you can also find all of our videos like this one and the streams and all of our other podcasts at BuckeyeScoop.com. The entire group of podcasts from the Buckeye Scoop team. Find that at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. So thank you all, and we will talk to you later.